Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Hanson here. So we're back with a brand new video, and this video is just really it's not a tutorial, but actually it is a tutorial. I'm going to show you guys how to actually set up the ticket system that I wrote a couple days ago. Again, this is mainly for self-hosting. So you're going to need to kind of like hard code just one thing, and that's the ID of the message. Of course, if you want it to be dynamic, you would need a database, but again, this is not this is all self-hosted. You'd be responsible for hosting yourself. And yeah, I mean, ideally, if you really needed some, you might as well. If you have any questions, let me know. Pretty much all of the main things I'm gonna be covering are gonna be in this video. Anyways, so the first thing you're gonna want to do is you want to go to this GitHub link. I'm gonna post the link in the description, but it'll take you to this link over here. Okay, this repository is public, okay, which means everyone can see it, obviously. And yeah, and basically what you want to do is you want to just simply clone or fork this repository. If you fork this repository, you'll have it on your own account. And I would say you should definitely fork it. But again, it doesn't really matter. So just click on clone. You can clone with HTTPS or SSH. Again, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's more like it's more like more of a more security thing with SSH. But again, it doesn't really matter. So just copy this link. Or just go down here and just copy this link. I actually have all of these instructions written out, so you can go ahead and check that out. So just copy this. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and just paste it into your terminal. So I'm gonna go and paste that in. Okay, so it's gonna clone it with HTTPS. I'm gonna CD into it now. Whoops. Sqlite.js ticket system. And now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to run npm install. Okay, so notice how right now I don't have I have everything but the .env and node modules folder and the package.lock.json because I added all those files to my gitignore. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to run npm install, like I said in the installation and setup part. The reason why is because we need the node modules folder because there's a chance that you might not even have dependencies that I installed on my system, or I'm sorry, on your system. So you want to make sure you run npm install, and what that'll do is it'll install all of the dependencies listed in that package.json file locally, and so you can actually use it in your project. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So there's also one more thing that I should mention is that when you run npm install, it'll install all of the dependencies, including the dev dependencies. So there's a chance that you might already have nodemon, so it won't really do anything, to be honest with you. But yeah, you can also run npm install -- only equals prod, and that'll install the production dependencies only. It won't install any dev dependencies. Okay, so let me just go ahead and run npm install real quick, and you're gonna see it's gonna install a bunch of dependencies and added 152 packages, and those are the sub dependencies that our main dependencies use. Right, so let's ls, and you're gonna see we have the node_modules folder, we have the package-lock.json file, and yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so the next thing you want to do is you want to set up a database. Again, I'm not going to show you guys how to install MySQL because it's just pretty much self-explanatory. Just Google how to do it or look up a video on how to set up how to install MySQL. It's very easy, very easy, and it's also it's also different if you install it on Ubuntu versus Windows. And I'm on Windows right now, and I don't have access to an Ubuntu. I mean, I do, but I would have to do it. But it's very easy. It's a very easy process. Okay, so just set that up. Excuse me. And basically, once you have it installed, what you want to do is you want to create a database, and I guess I'll show you guys how to do that right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and say MySQL -u sty-p. So this is how you can log into your MySQL account through the terminal. But if you're on Windows, if you have MySQL installed, they actually install the MySQL command line client, and it'll just ask you for the root user. But I don't know how to actually log into an alternate user through that client. It's probably possible, but you gotta configure it through some kind of do something, I don't know. But if you want to log into a different user, the way I do it is I just open my my command prompt and I just type MySQL -u my username -p. Okay, and this is not the root user. Well, I mean, it is a root user, but it's not the actual root user. Okay, one more thing I want to mention is you might run into an error where it says MySQL command is not found. The reason why that's the case is because MySQL is probably not set up in your path. So what you want to do is you want to go over to your environment variables, and what you want to do is you want to copy the path that goes all the way up to your bin folder, right? And you can see right over here in my path, you're going to see that I have MySQL. Where is it? And I just want to make sure you guys can. I know I'm recording on my 34-inch screen, the high resolution, so it might be a little bit hard to actually see this. Let me see. Where is it? There we go. See program files, MySQL, MySQL Server 8.0/bin. Now, this is mostly, you're going to run into this issue if you're doing it on Windows. You're rarely going to run into this issue if you're on Mac or Ubuntu, though. So yeah, just make sure you have it set on your path if it isn't, and you'll know if it isn't if it gives you the error MySQL command not found. So what you're going to do is you're just going to copy the path. So wherever you installed MySQL, it's going to bring you to this bin folder, right? So MySQL for me is installed on program files, MySQL, and then MySQL server, and you want to copy it all the way up to the /bin. Okay, if you have trouble with this, just go on my Discord server and I'll be happy to help you out. And once you do that, just restart your terminal and then you should have the command. All right, and so let's just log in our database, and I'm just going to type in my password. And there we go, we're logged in. So what you want to do first is you want to say create database. Okay, this is the query to create a database, and you can name it whatever you want. So let's just go ahead and name it test setup. Nothing crazy. And then if you want to list all of your databases, you can just say show databases, and you'll list all of the databases that are created on your system. Now, in order to actually perform queries in our database, we have to actually step into it. What I mean by that is we actually have to select the one we want to use. So we're going to go ahead and just say use database, or I'm sorry, I think it's just use, no, let's use database test setup. No, I'm sorry, it's actually use test setup. I'm sorry. Okay, there we go. Use test setup. Perfect. So now if we try to do show tables, you're gonna see that it says empty set, right? That's because we don't have any tables. Now let's not create any tables, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna let Sqlite do all that for us. So it's gonna be much easier. So don't create any tables for now. Okay, so again, I also have instructions over here. Make sure you have a MySQL server installed, and I also say that it's not recommended to use the root user at all, but if you really want to, go for it. It doesn't really freaking matter. Just know that there are risks to it in case if something bad happens. And again, yeah, create a database, which we just did, and then we don't need to create a table. We'll let Sqlite do all that for us. So the part where I mentioned earlier when I said I'm going to show you guys how to also set it up with Sqlite, which means you don't have to bother installing MySQL on your system. You can just use Sqlite. So what you want to do is, I need to go to the documentation for this, because I don't know how different the queries between a SQLite and MySQL is, but I just got to double check this just to be 100% sure. Okay, so you can see on Sqlite, again, Sqlite, if you guys don't know what it is, it's an ORM, basically means Object Relational Mapper. So pretty much it'll take, you can define a schema for your database, and pretty much for everything that you want to do with your database, right? It'll pretty much take all those queries, it'll wrap everything for you, and it'll map your schema into a record in the database, if that makes sense, right? So you don't have to worry so much about writing actual SQL statements, because the ORM will take care of that for you. The only thing you have to worry about is setting up your schema, and then just, knowing which functions to use to save and query data. All right. Okay, so again, it does support a bunch of different database engines: MySQL, MariaDB, SQLite, PostgreSQL, if I pronounced that right, and MSSQL, which is, I think, Microsoft server. Again, so you can choose whichever you want. And again, Sqlite is mainly for SQL, right? SQL dialects, not for MongoDB. MongoDB is a different type of database engine, like a complete different type of database. Like, it's a no relation database. If you want to use MongoDB, then you don't need to install Sqlite. You can just go ahead and check the docs and look. Anyways, which I might do a different video on it. Anyways, so SQLite is what we want. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go into, so again, once you have cloned the repository, let me actually open this up. Okay, so once you have cloned the repository and everything, you're going to go into the source folder. Let me zoom in. You're going to go into database, and you're just going to change MySQL to Sqlite. That's it. That's all you're going to do. Awesome. Right? There we go. And oh, I'm sorry. You also need to set the path to where you want the storage engine to be. Because Sqlite is actually it's not a client to server database, right? It's a client to client database. And what that means is basically it's like an embedded database. So you don't need to connect to like a remote server to actually access the database, if that makes sense. Pretty much everything is saved in a file, and you'd access all of your data in that binary file, in the SQLite file, basically. Right? And you can read more about it, just type SQLite, and it's actually pretty cool to use, actually. Like, if you're building a really small application, SQLite would be pretty cool. And actually, a fun fact, a lot of, if you've ever worked with, like, web development stuff, there are many frameworks like Ionic that actually use, I think, SQLite for like their storages, and I think maybe a lot of mobile apps do use SQLite when it comes to like storing data and stuff, so definitely look into that. Let's also, okay, so let's the storage part, so let's do storage, and I think this needs to be a relative path, so we're just going to keep it inside here. SQL, let's just say db.sqlite, yeah, path, okay, perfect, okay, that's fine. Okay, and I think that's all we need to do. Now, since we're using SQLite, though, we actually do not need any of these at all, right? I think I don't even think we need any of these at all since we're using SQLite. I might be wrong, but let me actually just try this out real quick. So let me just set up an environment variable. So, okay, the next thing you want to do is you want to set up an environment variable. Okay, so first, let's actually just delete all this first. Okay, but again, if you want to use MySQL though, I'm going to show you which variables you need to set up for. Okay, so let's just delete this first, and then we'll go back to MySQL. So let me just set up my bot token because I haven't set that part up, and I gotta go to my other thing over here and just set that. So now if I go and if I just make sure I don't have another shell open. Okay, so if I do npm run dev, my bot should be able to log in, and that's fine. And you're gonna see, I think we are logged into the database. I think. Wait a minute. Am I in the right directory? No, I am. No, yeah, I am. Okay, but I think it's still using. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So yes, it did set up the database for us. So you can see right over here, db.sql SQLite. I thought it was going to save it into here, but I think, yeah, it's going to save it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, there you can see we have our database file over here. You can't view it because it's a binary file, but you can actually, if you're using Visual Studio Code, there's actually an extension that you can install that allows you to actually view your data. I don't have it on right now, but I'm not gonna worry too much about it. Because we're just gonna rely on, we're just gonna, because I know it's gonna work, so it's not gonna be a huge deal. But definitely install the extension though. Okay, so let's actually test this out. Okay, so we have our database set up. Let's actually create a ticket, and you're gonna see that, wow, it actually worked. Wow, works the same exact way as MySQL. So right now, remember, this whole process is not running on our MySQL server. This is running on our SQLite. This is running on the SQLite engine. Okay, and you know what? I'll just install the extension just to. Oh, actually, wait. What the hell? Oh, never mind. That's something different. Okay, I'm actually gonna go ahead and just install that extension real quick, just to show you guys how it works. SQLite. There we go. So just type in SQLite in Visual Studio Code. I think Atom might also have it too. I'm not sure. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to my command palette, and let's just type SQLite, and let's just say open database, and it's gonna ask you for the file, which we're just gonna select db.sqlite, and then there's gonna be a tab down here. It says SQLite Explorer, and you now see we have tickets, and we can see the schema, and we can say show table, and it's gonna give you the ID of our ticket the same exact way that we had in MySQL. And I'm pretty sure this works the same exact way because the nice thing about it is that you can use any engine you want, and the functionality, like the function calls, all of it is going to be pretty much the same. The only problem that might occur is like you might use some function that might not be supported in a different engine, because I know there are a lot of functions that, and there are a lot of functions and properties that are only supported in like certain engines like Postgres that's not supported in MySQL, if that makes sense. Okay, and yeah, you can see you don't need to install MySQL, and you can just use it right over here, which is pretty freaking awesome. Okay, but again, let's say if, for example, if you did want to use MySQL instead of Sqlite, then just leave this part alone, change this back to MySQL, and get rid of the storage part. And what you want to do is you want to set up your environment variables for your database. So just go to the .env file, and what you want to do is you're going to set up an environment variable for DB user. You can name these whatever you want, but I just name it, DB user, DB pass, and DB name just for conveniences. So DB user would be your username. So mine would be STY. DB pass, that would be my database password. DB name, I think I named, what did I name it again? I forgot. What was it? Test setup. And just do test setup. Okay, and if I save, I'm gonna save again, and now it's gonna restart. I think our bot should restart, and you're gonna see right now that we are using a different database, and I can show you right over here. Let me log into my database. And let's go ahead and use test setup and show tables. You're going to see that table is created. I did not create it manually before. This was created through the Sqlize query. And let's just describe the schema. And then you're going to see that we have the same schema. If I try to select records using the select statement, it's going to say empty set. But if I try to create a ticket, this shouldn't affect it at all. Let me actually go ahead and do this. So it's going to create a new ticket. It should say ticket 001 because that's our first ticket. And you're going to see that it gets saved in the database. All right, and that is pretty much how you set up this ticket bot system. I think, actually, I'm sorry. There's one more thing I forgot to mention. Okay, so the most important thing you need to make sure you have is the embedded message, which is this thing over here for people to react to. Okay, now again, this is all for self-hosting, so I just want to make that clear. So you are going to need to pretty much create a simple command, and this is just a one-time usage command. So let me actually, which directory? This one, okay. So I'm going to go back to the original one. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up a command, and this command is only going to be used one time. Basically, it's just going to be used to send the initial message that people are going to react to. That's all it's going to do. Okay, so right over here, I already written the command already. I forgot to include it in the GitHub repository, but I will make a change to this right now. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to commit it to and push it to the repository, and I'll edit the README too. But basically, what you want to do is you just want to create a simple admin command that says, whatever you want. I called it create ticket message, and I also made sure that the person that's setting that message has administrator privileges, the permission. And then I create an embed message, and basically it says set title, set description, set footer, set timestamp, set color. For the color, you can just pick whatever hexadecimal color you want. Let's just pick, I don't know, blue. Okay, and just paste that in over here. It needs to be the hashtag. And that's pretty much it. And then you're going to go ahead and do message channel.send, and then just send that embed. And now, if I go to support, let's just say, what did I even call it again? It was create ticket message, right? You're going to see that it did not work. Why did it not work? Oh, because I'm running the wrong process. Let's go back to DJS ticket bot. Okay. So now if I do this, whoops. It's gonna create that. It didn't react to it though. I forgot to add the reaction. Let's do that real quick. So then we're just gonna use a promise. So we're gonna say message.react, and here you're gonna want to use an emoji. Now in my tutorial, I use the, I forgot which emoji it was. It was this emoji right over here. Where was it again? This one right over here. You can change this, but remember, if you change it, you have to change it right up here too, and in your else, in everywhere else that you have it set up to. Okay, so just paste that emoji in there. And again, so again, if you wanted to change this emoji to something else, you'd have to replace it here, you'd have to replace it here, you'd have to replace it pretty much everywhere that you see it referenced. Okay, so just make sure you have that set up as well. And yeah, that should give the reaction. My bot doesn't have permission, so let's just do that again. It's gonna give the reaction, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna copy the ID and go over here, all the way up here on line. I mean, not, it's gonna be probably a different line, but basically you're gonna see where the client on raw then is, and then right where I say if message ID equals, you're gonna replace whatever this ID is to the new ID of the message. The reason why is because that's the new message that's going to be handling all of the reactions for creating the ticket. And yeah, so once you get that set up, everything should work just as you want. All of the reactions should work properly. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Just join my Discord server down below. It's growing. It's pretty awesome. I try my best to answer questions. Chance. And or just leave a comment down below and resort to the little mini tutorial that I wrote on over here. I'll update it soon. But anyways, yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.